Hello everyone. Nice to see all of you on today. Party. So today we'll be talking about how to get access, which is the platform. Myself, Shoaib, coding, caffeine, and contemplation are my cherished companions. So this is me 3 years back at the same place, looking younger than the current me. So Atlas, Atlas is basically a collection of maps, and that is what uh, we went by. So Atlas is basically a low-code platform. It's looks along with ensuring design consistency. And it also serves as a visual platform for all our components. So whatever we build is visible via Atlas. So what was the motivation for building Atlas? So let's take an example of two of our pages from our main Flipkart app. So on the left side you can see it's our product page. It has few widgets or components, you can call them. And on the right side is your my accounts page. It shows you the information of the account of the person that is logged in. So I want all of you to find the differences between the two pictures. So actually, they are the same picture, if you ask me. So if you see the highlighted bits in the two images, uh, they are essentially the same layout with some limited variations. So this delivery information, right, that we are showing, it's essentially an icon on the left, some text in the middle, and an icon on the right. Same for this all of us in coupons, wherein the left icon is kind of omitted, but the center text is still there, and the right chevron icon is still there. Same for this one, and this one, and this one. So one important thing to note here is all of these components individual, like this delivery component, this offers component, this credit options component that you see, are built as separate UI components in our code base, right? So you would have a developer writing code to develop each of these individual components. And it becomes very difficult when you have a team of 100 developers working on the same code base to ensure that we have consistency along with reusability while building such extensive layouts. So that was the primary motivation for us. We wanted to reduce the development effort of building widgets. We also wanted to ensure consistency via our design language system. So our design language system is our DLS, which enforces some standardized tokens, basically standardized fonts, spacing, colors, and so on. It also would ensure that we are able to reuse bits that we are developing, along with providing a platform for visualizing whatever you have created and giving you analytics of whatever you have built so that you can decide whether some layout is performing well or not. So what we did as an idea is, why not create something like a reusable layout which is covering all of the aspects of the two pictures that you saw earlier, right? So a left icon followed by some text with title and subtitle in the middle, and icon on the right, which is a chevron icon. And we decided to call it a link row, right? So, and reuse this across all our pages and like components. Now, the main problem with creating these reusable layouts is visibility, and that is something which Atlas solves for us. So I'll cover how we are solving everything, but before that, some context as to how we render our page. So we render our page entirely driven by the server. So that is the principle behind server-driven UI, wherein in traditional applications, your data is driven by backend, right? Like clients drive the UI and backend drives the data. Like clients say that, hey, this is my list component, give me the data for this list component. And say this is my carousel, so I am rendering a carousel and give me the data for the cards. But in our case, clients cannot drive the UI because our UI is very dynamic. We don't know at clients that what to show, when to show, and where to show to a user. So a server decides when to show, what to show, and where to show for a user. So server tells us that, hey, you have something like a header at the top, followed by some footer at the end of the page. And within the header and footer, you have a central list sort of a section, which is scrollable. And you have different widgets or components. So we call them widgets here at Flipkart, but essentially these are components, if you see, right? So we have a carousel widget, a navigation widget, a banner widget, and these are kind of like contextual widgets. So basically, they have some business logic associated with them. Like say, this widget has navigation logic built into it. Similarly, for this recently viewed stores, it has the business context of, hey, it's being used to show recently viewed items. And similarly for the carousel as well. So the entire page is configured at server side, or decided what to at the server side, wherein the server kind of declares the UI for the entire page. It tells us key at slot 0, position 0, show a header widget. And it also sends the data for the header widget. So the data is kind of like a predefined contract between the client and the server. And we, at clients, when we get the data and the widget, we know how to render the header widget. So we render the header widget. Similarly for the other slots as well. So that is how our entire page is built currently, since all of the pages are very dynamic and they keep changing for every user, for every day, every time. Now let's take a look at our overall architecture and how we have built Atlas, right? So first bit, the most essential bit of building any low-code tool would be creating a component library. Our component library is called FigUI. So it comprises of some components which are like the core components. We call them atoms. So atoms are foundational elements. They cannot be composed from other components. Examples of them would be, say, a label, an image, a button, a box, which is kind of like a flexbox container, and so on, right? And then you have some molecules which are kind of reusable, but at the same time, they're also composed from certain atoms. So like say a grid atom or a carousel atom, which would be using, say, images and like lists and so on, right? So that is the first bit that we built, a component library derived from our design language system. Next, we came up with a drag and drop console. We call it the Atlas console, which uses this component library, and it allows you to create whatever layout that you want using the atoms and molecules that is already part of our component library. So you can drag and drop a label, an image, and place it on a canvas and create your layout, right? So here, for example, we are placing an image followed by a label and icons and so on, right? Once we create a layout and we try to save the layout, what this Atlas console does, it generates a layout DSL. What is DSL? I'll cover in the upcoming slides, but it sort of generates some representation of the layout that you have already created, along with the data requirements for the layout that you have created. So there are two important bits to the response of the layout that we created: the DSL of comprising of the hierarchy of atoms and the composition of atoms, along with the data requirement for the layout comprised of each of the individual atoms. So within the DSL, right, you as you can see here, we are like kind of saying that label one needs data to be filled for a label, which is the label data, which is a data model which clients and the backend share. So backend knows you have to fill in the data for a label, and so on for the image. We have an image data model, right? Now this DSL is saved to a widgets DB, you can assume, right? It's kind of like a service which stores all of this DSL and the data requirements for the layouts. Now let's look at this from a client's perspective, right? So for our clients, the mobile and web clients, what they would do is when trying to open a page, they would make a fetch call to our backend server, right? Network call. So now the backend server goes to a page service, which is the service which determines what to show, when to show, and how to show to a user, right? So it has the configuration for the entire page. For each position on the page, each slot on the page, this page service has a set of options for each slot. So it can show any widget, like say slot 0 here is showing widget 1 out of 4 configured options, like widget 1, widget 4, widget 5, right? So you have multiple options, and this page service is kind of like an orchestrator which decides which widget to show to which user. It takes into account a lot of parameters like say ranking and user type and behavior and so on, and decides at runtime which widget to show to a particular user, right? So in this case, it's choosing to show widget 1, 4, 6, 8, 3 for the page, right? So once the backend server gets the page configuration, what happens next is backend server now knows that, hey, I have to get the layouts for widget 1, 4, 6, 8, 3, and so on, right? Now the layout has also defined within itself that, hey, I need the data for this particular layout. And it has the data mappings to the microservices which will fill in the data. So basically, first it gets key, I need to fill in the data for layout 146. So I need to fetch the data for the layout 1, 4, and 6, right? So it will get the data from all the microservices for layout 1, 4, 6. Let's say, for example, layout 1 needed data from product info, and within product info, they needed it from pricing info. Whereas there is some other field which needs data from some other upstream microservice, like say, for example, they need data from offers service, right? So what backend server would do now is, depending on all the data that is aggregated and collected for that particular layout, it will return the layout along with the aggregated data for the entire page. So it sort of serves as a aggregator layer which constructs the entire aggregated response for each of the slot, and now it sends back the response to the clients. Now clients know how to render individual components. Clients know how to map data to the layout. So the clients now use something called a widget builder that we have built, which reads this JSON DSL and converts it into a sort of a React component, right? Eventually, which is rendered on the screen. So this is the overall picture of how we have built Atlas, and I'll try to cover the important bits in the upcoming slides. So the first important bit is the domain specific language, or the DSL, right? So the DSL is nothing but a custom markup. Think of it like JSX itself. JSX is a DSL, right? You have defined a particular format for representing some information, and that information in our case is the DOM tree that you are building, right? So it's an intermediate representation, as in like you are creating the DSL first and then converting it into the actual component hierarchy that you would be rendering on the screen, right? Now, this DSL has three important components within itself. It has the layout, which is nothing but sort of like a recursive tree. I'll delve more into how the DSL is structured in the upcoming slide, but it comprises of a layout, the data requirement for the layout, and the layout requirements. So it also says key, I need these sub layouts. So sub layout is kind of like reusable components that you might be using, right? Like say, for example, the earlier link row example that we saw is kind of like a sub layout, which is getting used across multiple layouts. So your parent layout defines what are the sub layouts that I need along with my whole layout. So let's understand this with an example. Let's say I want to create this particular component, right? So this is the DSL representation of this component, and this DSL representation, this is kind of like a JSON structure, which is a recursive n-array tree sort of structure, right? In this, you have at the top level our box atom, right, which is the container, the flexbox container, and this flexbox container is is defining this background color token, right? It's saying that, hey, give this box a background color of gray. Now this box has children of image view, label, and another label, right? So as we can see, this box is kind of like arranging this, creating this layout in a columnar fashion, and the children are an image view, which is this image that you see, followed by this label, which is a text that you see, and the other label which you see at the bottom, right? Now we are saying that this label has some design tokens. So we call this as tokens. Tokens are nothing but, you can assume them to be properties or props of your React component. So we are saying that, hey, the design tokens of this particular label atom is, say, font. And I'm defining it as per our design language that we have defined. That, hey, font is XXL in this case. And similarly, we would be defining the design tokens for each of the individual atoms on the layout, right? So this second label would define atoms tokens for, say, strike through and color of the 50% of a text that you see, and so on, right? And this is how the DSL is structured in a way to describe the layout that you see on the screen. Now this layout, if you observe, right, it has certain fields which is like a data key. Now you might be wondering, what is this data key? So basically, data key is nothing but a pointer to the actual data which is separate from the layout. So we are essentially separating the layout from the data completely. Layout is a reusable concept, and it's defining that, hey, when you want to like create the entire page, create the component with the data, you fill in the data from this data key, which the backend server would have provided us in the aggregated response that we saw, right? So the data key, in this case, say for example, the image view, the data key says that, hey, get the data from $image_0, right? So we are essentially mapping this image view to a image0 data key, which would be present in our response from the server, and some other image would be mapped to some other data key, right? So now, while creating the structure of the DSL, we had one major design choice that we had to take, which was creating the layout DSL with data filled in, inflated from the backend API versus keeping the layout totally separate from the data. So these are the two approaches. Basically, in the first approach, we could have done something like image view and fill in the data from the backend. So image view needs data for, say, rendering the image. It needs the URL of the image, right? So backend would have filled in the data because it knows where to fetch the data from, and it would have provided us the response with the data filled in automatically in the response itself, versus keeping it totally separate. And the second approach is the one which we have taken, wherein we have put in references to the actual data. Why we did this? So basically, the advantage of keeping layout with data already filled in would have been that there would be no additional cost of filling in the data, doing the data binding at clients, right? That would be the main advantage. But the disadvantage would have been that for a page with a lot of repeated layouts, let's say, for example, a page which has 20 components, which are the same components, like say our search results page, which has the same search card shown 20 times on the page, right? You would essentially be sending the same payload 20 times. So it would have bloated our response a lot for a lot of repeated layouts, versus the approach that we have taken, wherein we have kept the layout separate and data separate. The advantages were kind of like we could have had we have a smaller response size now because the layouts are kind of reusable, right? We can also do optimizations like layout prefetching and caching at clients if you want to. And as an added advantage, the backend can be purely free of doing any UI related constructs. So basically, backend doesn't need to fill in the data now. They can be totally agnostic of the UI. Although it comes with a cost, so the cost is the additional cost of filling in the data, that doing the data binding at clients at runtime, right? So it was around 5% additional render time for each component, but that is a hit which we were ready to take because of the advantages that this provides us, which is mainly the smaller response size and the layout caching and prefetching bits. Now, coming to the widget builder. So the widget builder is a client-side library which takes in the DSL input and returns nothing but a React component as an output, right? So basically, it traverses the JSON DSL. It does a recursive rendering of the individual atoms that it needs to render, and it also fills in the data because it has now received both the data and the layout separately. It also additionally caches layouts if it needs to. So this is how it would actually convert something. So you might be knowing that eventually all the JSX that we write gets converted into React.createElement function calls, right? So this createElement function has a structure like it first takes the type of the component that you want to render, then the props of the component, followed by a array of children if that component has any children, right? So what this widget builder does is it converts this DSL that you can see on the left side, this basically a box with a children of label, and the box has a token of background red, and it converts it into this recursive React.createElement function tree, wherein React.createElement we are saying that, hey, the component is a box component, and clients know that box is an atom that they understand, right? Along with the tokens, the props of the box. So the box props are basically we are saying BG or background color red. Any other tokens that our box understands would also come here. And this box has a child of label. So label needs some data to render. So that data is fetched from the API, is in the API response. And we would refer it via this data key, right? The $L1 that you see here. So the widget builder extracts out the data from L1. So the hello world data would be here in the props of the label component, along with some label styling that might also be there. And kind of this is where the merging is happening, the merging between the data and the view props, right? The data model and the view props are being merged here to construct the final component that needs to be shown on the page. And essentially, this is all the widget builder does to create the layout. So just a small aside that why not directly use JSX in the response, since JSX is not directly executable in the browser, like eventually Babel would, like when you do a build or something, it actually converts your JSX into this React.create element functional calls, right? So this is the actual output from Babel. So yeah, this is the final important bit of the whole Atlas. So in this, you can see, right? It's a UI which allows you to basically drag and drop components. So we have basically placed a box, an image, some text, and now we are able to configure each of the exposed properties as per the design language that we have already defined. Like if you see font color, we are changing to success 400 over here for the pricing discount that we are showing, right? And similarly, all the exposed props are visible in this Atlas console. These are the configurable props. So this also ensures that we remain consistent with our design language, because you cannot arbitrarily put any values for the text that you see, right? You cannot put hashes or something like that. You only have to use the tokens, the design tokens, which our design team has come up, and it helps us enforce those design guidelines. Like you cannot put arbitrary values of font as 17, right? We want font to be consistent across our app, and we want font to say key it's for titles we are using font of size XL and so on. So all the exposed properties are configurable from here, and the end output is the DSL along with the data for the widget. So yeah, this is mostly it. So I was a firm believer in the first quote, which is there is nothing a code can't do. Now I think it's time to change it to nothing our low code can't do. Thank you. Yeah, open to questions if any. Yeah.
Hi, by the way, I'm Mukul.
Hi, Kul.
My question is, so whenever Flipkart goes whether it's on mobile or web,
Right.
there is a loader comes.
Right.
Loaders come and then the layout
Right.
shift
Right.
happens.
Right.
The loader comes. And you're saying that you're sending the data along to the widget.
Right.
So how that change happens and how Atlas helps you?
Okay. So basically, the loader that you might be seeing, right? If we talk about apps first, so we are using React Native. So the loader would still come, as in like the entire response is sent at once, right? The entire page response is sent at once. But for web, what we do is we do server-side rendering. So we construct the HTML with the initial set of widgets that we want to do on our node servers, and that initial HTML is sent back as the first response to the client for web, right? And that is rendered, and we then do client-side hydration as like most other common apps do it.
So instead of just getting a response,
Right.
you get the whole DSL.
Right.
And the wait time between that is something the loader.
Yeah.
So just a follow-up question, if you don't mind, how do you get the DSL? Do you make an API call or like how?
Yeah, so the DSL is part of the page fetch response that we make. So for each page, we make one API call to the server. The server sends us the entire page layout comprising of all the DSLs or all the layouts that are supposed to be in the page, along with the data, which is kind of separate from the layout, but it's part of the same response. And then we do the construction and merging of the data and layout at clients.
Just last question.
Yeah.
Just a last question on this. Does it create a problem with respect to the SEO of the products and how it renders data?
No. That is why we are using server-side rendering, because then our node server acts as an intermediary, wherein the node server, when it sends to the actual web client, it has already done the first HTML construction, right? It does the same things which you would have done at the client. It's just that node server makes the API call, It fetches the layout and so the widget builder, you can assume it's kind of running at the node server as well. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. Questions? Not as of now, but we are like exploring that option as well. Yeah.
When you said that we are not doing data binding at the server side,
Right.
so when you said that we repeat components,
Right.
in the search form, so how does it reduce the data size? Because we'd be doing the data key mapping anyway, and
Right.
we have a repetition code, right?
Right. So think of it like this way, right? The data is very minimal, right? You don't need a lot of things in the data, but the layout is kind of like a very inflated JSON, you can say, right? If you are kind of avoiding those repetitions for that large set of inflated JSON, you can potentially bypass what you're saying. One more thing that we do as an optimization is we are flattening the data response, which kind of reduces the lookup time. It's kind of like a map which ensures that our lookups are very fast. So you don't have to, data is not like the lookup doesn't take a lot of time for the data. Not much, not much, because layout is only once, right? So layout is only once. Data is anyways something that you cannot avoid, right? Even if you had merged it, the data would have still been there, right? So that bit is assume it is common between the two approaches, right? The data bits. What is changing is only the layout bits, which we are kind of avoiding the repetitions. Yeah.
Let's take up further questions offline.
Okay. Yeah, since you're out of time, we can take the questions offline. Thank you everyone. That's my Twitter handle. I'll keep it. You can put it. Use this also.
You have a belt.
Yeah.
Sit on your belt and long press this.
Hello. Hello. Cool.
HTML. Duplicate, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It will take time. Close connection. Right? Good afternoon, guys. Should I? Switch off this. Okay. You ready? No. Aman.
Switch off the mic.
Yeah, switch off. Switch off, right?
Mute the laptop.
Access. Okay. Now it's off. Fine. Mute. It's unmute.
Go there. This one. Mute it. Click.
Okay. Yeah.
Now say.
Hello. Good. Thanks, man. Hello. Hello. Fine. Okay. So sorry for the hiccups. Okay. Today I want to talk about like how we can improve the performance of our icons and logos when we display on the web pages. This occurred to me when I was trying to design a page like this, and then I figured it out that when I load this particular page in mobile, the page appears first, and then this logo and the icons appears like maybe a second or half a second delay. So I went back and then like tried, okay, what is the approaches or what are the different approaches to improve the performance on that initially. So our whole goal is here, like how can we display the logo or an icon or any infographic on the web page as soon as possible. There are multiple strategies. So initially, yeah, the first one we have to take care is let's reduce the size. So I did an experiment and then I can show you. So for demo purposes, I throttle the network, and here we can see that an image with lesser size loads fast than an image with higher. So this is the first step we can take here. Then there are interesting, especially for the icons, there is an interesting approach called sprite. Sprite is nothing but uh, multiple icons and logos are bundled in one image file, and CSS will take care of loading them separately. So how that works will be like this. Okay. So here we can see that here in the first line I used each image is rendered separately, but the second line is sprites. So in the sprites we can see like all the images appears once. So and when we are in a web page, when we have like hundreds of different icons, this is the like one of the way to achieve the performance, because this particular sprite is loaded only once, and actually the CSS will take care of adjusting the background and then loading the right image whenever we can. That's one of the performance. And so after this was there for a long time, maybe like this was the thing in 2011 or like around that time. Now after that, for icons there is something like new game, that is like font icons. Basically font icons are something like all the icons are part of a font file, and we just render that particular font and automatically uh, the icon is displayed. Still good with the font icons is this is a vector graphic, and so this basically will not have any issue with resizing, and it works with in all the sizes. So that is good, but still there is a problem with font icons that you have to load the font. So, and there is still a problem like, okay, when to load and how to get that fonts easily to the browser. And if there is a delay automatically, we will get that flicker effect. So, okay, we can't use font, we can't use image sprites, even they are like slower, and image sprites we can't use. That's a raster graphic and we can't scale. So another one is SVG. So how can you do this with SVG? I can show you a demo. So, see, in SVG, all icons are displayed immediately, and these are actually the part of the HTML. So I can show in the render HTML, right? So this all SVG itself is a HTML tag. So what happens is whenever we render these kind of icons, and when we use this technology, we can either render in client side, or to even to improve performance, we can use the server side generation and then server side rendering to render this particular whole page the server side. And yeah, I can show a summary of how all the looks. So this is how the performance. The SVG comes first. That is because it's along with the HTML, and there are like sprites is different, and obviously a raw image is actually loaded later. So that's the whole game, and yeah. So try to use SVG wherever is possible, and this is only with the graphics where you can render vector graphics, like more suited for icons and logos. If you have like a completely an actual image, and maybe you should like use a different approaches. Yeah, thank you. So that's a very small talk. You can follow me in the LinkedIn here, and we are trying to build MUI components. You can follow this particular link. So we are trying to create more React components which are on top of MUI. Any questions? Good. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have to. No, this is for stream like show streaming mic. Yeah, Bharti.
अरे यार इसको करना
इसको लॉन्ग प्रेस करना ऑन हो जाएगा, ठीक है?
इसको क्या करूँ हाँ हाँ
जी, उसको ज्वाइन कर लो.
ओके ये सही है अभी
सही.
ओके
Switch it on the long press. No, yes, no, this is streaming. This is here. So this might be used to stream. Even stream on YouTube as well.
Okay, so this
This
okay,
is for
I want to speak. Okay.
Switch it on by long pressing this button.
ओके
Stop that. Let it be. Let it be. No, don't have no more. audio is coming from that. And that's not sharing. Can you share
Switch off is also visible only.
the volume?
Yeah. It's visible.
It is visible, no? Speak.
No, this is microphone. Where is the volume of the? Can you go somewhere else? Open some other tab. You can move some. This is the old laptop. It's already on.
Close the browser and open.
किसी तो नहीं आ रहा है
Can you close it? I think it's because of the streamer. Can you close the streamer link? Close the link. Okay, now we don't have the echo, right? Yeah. Okay, now. Okay.
No, it's not still.
should I open
No,
No,
but
the volume buttons are not showing. Can we restart the browser and check?
to go back to StreamYard and like now there's no echo. No echo, but
The volume buttons are not showing up.
your volume button
works with the Bible
It works. It's not showing up.
it should be fine now, right?
setting
No, it's only to do with the computer audio. Okay. Go to that's it. However.
It's not there in my laptop also.
okay
Shall we restart the system?
restart करो should I restart
Let's do that. Is it okay?
restart करते हैं I will restart restart the restart
वो रख दो. वो चादर है ना?
ये आ रहा है ना बटन अब now it's coming हटा दिया अब यहाँ से
Sound
रिमूव
कम
कर
कर
दिया
दिया.
साउंड कम कर दिया
यहाँ से नहीं था पहले
नहीं वो फुल वॉल्यूम पे था
वही हो रहा था
फिर कर दिया इसका ये क्या है
Is it because of that?
हाँ
this is yeah उसकी वजह से होता है
It should work now. It is done.
so
You
after
just
removing
now say test it. Say something. It's fine. Is it working? Yeah, it's working. It's working. I think we're this. Can you share your screen?
one second okay hello okay Hello everyone. Myself Bharti Saini. I'm working in Flipkart from last 2 years, and I am part of FSG UI team, which handle all the UI applications in supply and chain part of the Flipkart. And today we are going to talk about the React Native Models library, how we can create it, and what are the steps we have to follow. So these are the agenda which we will talk. Like first, what is the React Native library? Why we need it? What is the architecture we have? And what are the steps we have to follow to create a library? And what are the way we have for the communication between native and the React Native? Now, what is the React Native module library first? So native modules in React Native refer as a JavaScript modules that are implemented in basically native code, and that can be accessed from JavaScript code in our React Native applications. Native modules are also allow us to create a custom native code and can be exposed as a JavaScript modules in React Native application, and that provide a way to a bridge between native and JavaScript in our applications. So native native models mainly used for create a pre-built. Okay, sorry. So one second. What happened?
Okay.
Okay. No issue. So, okay, so native modules library mainly we use where native library, React Native are not providing any functionality. This example, we want to create some UI components which are not available in React Native. If you want to build some logic, like if you want to access some files from the React Native or from the device, or if you want to access some if you want to access some geolocation from the our device. So these are functionality we can achieve via creating a React Native libraries, and React Native modules provide a bidirectional communication channel between React Native and native side. So, and now in incoming slide, we will see how we can communicate between React Native and native side, and how we can send event also from native to JavaScript, and JavaScript, how we can invoke a method from JavaScript side to React Native. And then second is like why actually we need it. Uh, then like it's React, if we will build React Native library, right? So it will provide a pre-built solution for our common task. We such as like we can create components, we can create some defined functionality, such as like if you want to access some files, you want to create you want to create a common components. For example, Google Map, if you want to open in our application, then you can create, or if you want to do some data management and more. And if you will create a common library, this will save your time, save our efforts in development, and enhance our functionality of our applications. And this library we can upload somewhere as a package, npm package we can upload. And we this example in Flipkart we are using JFrog, or either Artifactory we are using to upload npm packages. And this package we have to add in our application as a npm package. We will add in our dependency, and in our application we can, so it will save our efforts. How, like we have to maintain in one repository only. If just example, if you want to create a one library to use in 10 applications, then we can use it, and we can maintain also. It's easy to maintain. So all over it will save our time. It will save our efforts, and it is easy to maintain also. So now next we will talk what is the architecture we have in React Native and native side. So now next Sharath will take care about this part.
Hello. So, myself, Sharath. I'm also working with the Bharti in the same team, belongs to FSUI. So today we are going to talk about this native models and native AI, right? So I'll give a small brief about the native architecture. So this React and React.js React Native code results and mainly uses the JSON and the shadow tree node for the native components and these threads will communicate via the React Native bridge to the native. So under the hood, right? So JavaScript might be using UI image view or UI view or group of the components. Their native components of React Native. Those actions for rendering any bidirectional communication which happens via the React Native to the native model. So these are native models where the uh, uh, where the native code can reside in the same project as well as the project standard libraries as well. So for example, in our Android library, say we have an Android pure Android application itself. So we want to use those. Okay. So we have a existing Android project which we want to migrate it to React Native. So we want to use the same library or code for the we can migrate it to the React Native library and we can place it in Artifactory or Maven repo or as a package and React Native application. So next we're going to talk about how to configure a React Native library for exposing the project structure for a native model. We will use the community tool called create React Native library. So we have text React Native library and the latest the library name which you want to keep React Native library name. So what this will do is this will create the necessary folder structure for us. For example, SRC or uh, uh, and other folders required for the Android library. This will help us and files, even the packages just other files. And where the Java class resides, where exactly native model is exposed to the React Native. So it's a simple Java class, public class calendar model, and which is extending the React context Java based model. Is and this is the get name which we have to override the method. So this is very important one, where we are returning the test string. So this string which will be used at the executor side of to communicate with this bridge with this module. Sorry. And there is one more class which is residing in the library as a package. This is the package where we have to override this create native models. So whatever model which we have created in the last lecture, this has to be added in the create native models in the list. So let's say I have a module here. We have more models. We can add no, more models. And we have to add in this list and this will be create. So whatever model we are using, this package, right? This package, my app package will be used at the linking or below 16. We have to do the manual linking of the React libraries. For example, settings uh, or the settings and in the main application class, we have to link these package classes. As React Native 60 and above, has been introduced and auto linking will take care of all those things. So Bharti, you want to take care of this? Thanks.
Sure. So, as explained by Sharath, we have to expose the native module's name from the native side, and then we will try to access this module in our JavaScript. So, how we can access? So, first we have to import native modules from React Native, and then we can extract this module name from React Native name. Like this syntax we have to follow. And for the type of basically we can use the TypeScript also so that we can define all the events or all the methods which we are going to call from the JS to native side. And then we can create a common JS file that can be used in our library side, in our React Native application side, and we can expose this module as a file, and this will we will add an interface here so that we can have a typo in our application side. And now we will see what are the way of communication between React Native and native side. First is like we can invoke a method from React Native to native side. Then second is we can use the emitter event that can be sent from the native to React Native. Now, uh, now we will see what are the types of methods we have to call JS to native and how it will return the response. So first is normal method. Like if you will invoke a JavaScript method, invoke a method from the JS to native, then in native side we have to write a one public method like this way. We can pass a argument also from the JS, and we have to expose this like using this at the rate React method, and that way we can expose this method from native to JS. And how we will access in JS side using the normal one. Like in the last slide, we uh, exported a module name, right? So from that and the method name, and we can pass the argument also like this. And okay, like now if you want to pass a callback from JS to native side, then how we'll implement in the native side? Same way, we will pass the arguments and we will pass the callback also. Yeah? And we can invoke this method and we can return some data if you want from the native to React Native side. We can use in JS side like this. We will pass the callback, and this event ID we will get from the native to React Native, and these are the methods we will pass. Now, if you want to use as a promise, then how we will implement in the native side? Same, like we will pass the arguments and we will pass as a promise. And the same way we will resolve the promise. And if you want to reject, then we can reject the promise also, and we can pass the arguments from native to JS side. And of how we can access in the JS, the same way we can use a async and await, and it will return event ID from the native, and the same. If it will be rejected, then we will get in our console as an error. Now, what is the event emitter that Shad will talk?
So, the one way already Bharti explained for communicating between the native and React Native. So, this is the other way where event emitter is also used as a correct only. No, no, that's okay. It is correct only. Let me use that. That is okay. So this is the other way where we can It's the event emitter for communicating with the native and React Native. Modules can signal events to the browser and also will be used the RCD emitter classes interfaces which can be obtained for the React context the code. So this is which will be residing in the Java in the native side, and this method is uh, event emitter to the React. So React context has this method get.js model and device event emitter model, RCT device event emitter class, emit the event name and so this is the params where the actual data resides and name which is used at the React data side to catch the event and do the process. So these are the JavaScript side of it. How to access the event and how to initialize the event sending. So our component one this is in getting we are sending an event doesn't add listener and so whenever we receive this function we get executed can be used and at the component we can initialize the listener. And now we talked about the normal simple Java class side of it, data and the reactive components. So here there is one more way where we can add YouTube UI also and then we also and run react this. So here, for example, already React Native might be have built button or stored the other view components. What about the other components is not inside the package of React Native and let's say already have a application how we want to use the same native UI use this view component and import the same UI to the React component. So this is a view manager class. So we this is a custom class which we have defined React image simple view manager of type React. This is the React image view. It's a custom UI which is built Android. This is we express with the simple view manager is a React view class where it is exposing the React view, the React Native side of it. This is and we are the constructor and where we can access to the React context. So this context will come from React Native component where this is the component. And as an step, we have to create the view instance of it. And here where the actual custom view will be, right, which will be exposed to the this get initialized here and will be exposed to the React server. And how expose the view, right? Now we have to set the properties to the view. So we have to use methods to set the properties to the view, and these methods has to be the application called React props, where you can pass the values to this method and this view, this private methods of this view will be used using the view object and pass these values which we are receiving to set the view properties to the view class. And this is where which will reside in the Java React context Java based module where we have to use this React image where we have so that one we have to add in the React Java based module and expose this React image to the React native. And So now we have added the view. Now let's say we want to communicate from the view to the React Native. We need to communicate with the so we have to write the map object, we have to pass the data, and we have so since we have the we have to get the data to it, and we have to understand the model we can call and receive event. So we have to pass the ID of this get ID is the views ID, and this event name and event was. So and one more configuration we have to do expose this event to the view. So that is the get exported custom getting event type constants. So this is a map that we have to pass this change and register this public and after. This is how it looks at the React Native side of it. It's like a custom component which we have, which we use in the React Native. Add the data. And this component is the event where native communicate React Native as a user React as event. This is it. Okay. Done. Bharti, ये दे दो।
ये लेके आ गए।
I'll do the location first. Here is my. One second, let me give this present. There is screen. Screen. Code system preferences. Only selected. Already recheck is saying recheck. Quit entering open. Okay, one second. ये लगाना पड़ेगा कि वो उससे कर लूँ मैं आपको माइक चाहिए हाँ माइक से yeah hello everyone so before starting I want to know means how many are just career, raise your hand. 2 years old, the career. Go to your slide. And how many are 80 years old? Means more than 7 years. They are in the industry. Why I will tell you. So my topic is around CSS. We developer treat CSS as a second class. Because they are tier one and they are and the terminal is 7 years old, 10 years old. I'm more than that. That's why I love working with the CSS. Right now CSS is involving too much, and there are one thing is like color. That is and why this is my 1 second. So according to CSS, what is the color? Normally, color is a perspective. We say whatever we say. This is color. Definition means what is the object. If light is coming, what is the wavelength? Its color depends on this one. Whatever we see with the eyes, this is different. We see the screen side. This is different. Here it's different. Because of the surface. So these are the standard definition from the CSS module. So this is my shameless promotion. I just created this, publish one of this my extension that do the color. Why this idea comes from? Because I was doing something, I have to collect some colors. Then I come to know I dig into this. There are so many things, there are so many syntax in the CS, variations. So I start. So normally the childhood and everything, so this is the pigments, primary colors, you know. You, 8 to 5 colors, get a new color. And these are the, if we add all the colors, then black color will be. Right? This is what active models. Everything is on the surface. This is CMYK printer. Kyan, magenta, everything printed on the surface, that is active model. Now, if we come to the screens, there are three primary colors, RGB, and we add all the. So this is the different. So this is additive model. Whatever the computers will see, they are following approach. Now, CSS evolving, so I go to the CSS module in the CSS when they added much color syntaxes. So in the module 1, 1996, they added this one. Initially, the color, the problem was that how this is the red color, 1 kc. I have somewhere right, this is the 1 kc. This is the red color. Why I am saying this is red, somebody said this is red. This is coming from the X11 server. Those 1980 they are X servers, first servers. They have so they have the RGB PHP by this. They have the colors. So that is the main things there we inherit all the colors, initial colors. Colors, that time we used hex value, conservated hex value are allowed in the syntax. Please all 6 I can provide RGB either set percentage or either set a numbers. Here is one. And during that one, there are only 16 colors. Only 16 colors. These are the 16 colors. There are 16 colors. Only these 4 other colors are not valid. See there. So now CSS module 2 comes. There are only one color added in the CSS2 module. Is orange. Because there are some then some engineers, HP engineers, they do not things they argue with them because they are testing orange color and the CSS one are not testing. They can only see the color. Now they will use the color was added. See the color they are accordingly from blue. Accordingly color comes. They
Then comes CSS3. This is most used white. Now in CSS1 and CSS2 they have document. Now CSS3 colors are there. Now they added 231 members. Now total 248 colors. Only 2 colors are allowed. Like if you see red, white, green, medium violet, red, violet. So there are colors you can use. So now only format in the alpha value. You use RGB or alpha or RGBA format. New format is SSR. This is the syntax percentage. You have to write the percentage. SSR also. And the system color was replicated. Now named color. So where it names color because there are many mails archive people are where this names come from. Why you are calling this one? RCP. This should be a 0 F0. It should be 0 F0. But the CSS name color is line. Pink and dark pink. Dark pink is a lighter than the pink. Dark pink in the CSS. Same for the gray. I'll show you. And there are 2, 3 colors. Cyan, aqua, they are equal colors. Magenta, fuchsia, they are. Now, Indian red, white, okay, they are not recommended. Controversy. But they are still there. Now, this is everything Rebecca purple. This is the one of the color rated 2014. X is the 9. This is the Rebecca CSS engineer. I with the then art and 6 age of 6 years. So this is the named color demo few of the there are many named color. So if you see gray, there is also gray and gray. You can use dark gray. If you see a dark field, light field, light field is not. There are also there are medium. There are also medium equivalent. There are medium violet red, there are pale violet red, but these are some colors where there are many colors, there are many archives fighting. Means there why you are this name, why this is always this one. This is very interesting. Now season 4 that come on finalized on the means 2014. Now season 6 is coming. So they get more white color gamut. I don't know. Gamut means more color space because as a we can see 10 million colors with the 30 different. Or animals only see the colors in a black and white. So the range of the color that is given device that is called a gamut. So if I write RGB minus 10 is out of the range. So it will turn into the 245 in the color spaces. So they need more color spaces. New monitor, new HD device, 4K device, new color. I don't know more color than our system. X, there are 4 digits, only the 3 digit and 6 digit. Then they added 4 digit and 8 digits. And this is a new format without comma. Comma is a real syntax. We use without comma. If there is alpha, this is RGB, RGB, and this is the alpha. This is always on the percentage. And this is RGB. This is the new syntax. Now there is one survey done by one. The most format. People are using support means there are many colors. People are using only RGB, RGB, RGB. I hope I'm not boring you. Huh? So now see the module board. There are new syntax. Hue, whiteness, brightness. I'll come later. How and there are two colors. The symmetrical polar model. Some of the rectangular polar model. So some are Cartesian, some are based on the polar coding. HSLA, LCH, OKLCH, LAY, OK level, they are added why most advanced version, the most advanced in that one, they have first color function are there. This is more color. This is very interesting. Color function. Within the color, we can add color function. Color function, color spaces. There are many color spaces as a gamut, right? There are many color spaces. There are three different color spaces that can be used. Okay, before going to the X, there are 0 to 16, and this is X decimal. So if you write FF, is 255. When you write FF, is 255, 255. All are maximum, then white. If you need red, FF 0000. If you need green, 00, FF. If you need 00, 00. Short form is whenever you is in three, that is equal to
Can you put this mic here? इधर डालना है. One second, ना. जब तक पिन कैसे लगती है? Okay, done. Yeah. So now this is ABC. If you write, this is equivalent to A, B, B, C, C. Is it also equivalent to ABCF? Because F are alpha channel, that is by default F. So all four syntax are the same. Now this is color gamut. If you see, this is the REC 2020. This is one color space. See this one. So here, purple color is represented by this point, and this is display P3. More monitor are coming on the display P3. This is the green color. That is their color space. Now sRGB, we are using mostly sRGB. This is the lowest one. This is the sRGB. We have very limited color, you can see. And if you see the long one, that is the human eye vision. So human eye can see more colors than this one. So these are the color gamuts. This is the color syntax by CSS5 normally, means this is full syntax. Color, absolute color base, or current color is also valid. Now absolute color, there is absolute color function or the named color, the hex color or transparent. Again, in the absolute color base, we can use RGB, RGBA, HSL, HSLA, HWB, color function, lab, LCH, OKLab, OKLCH. They are device independent. That's why they are using OKLab. OKLab is, I'll go through them. Now the color syntax, color, this is the absolute color function. Now this is more interesting. This is the syntax of the color from the CSS module. We can use color space parameters and then alpha value, and either we can use none. In RGB, we cannot use word none. You have to, so color space parameter, there are predefined color spaces, XYZ parameter, XYZ parameters, and these are the things you can use. These are the predefined sRGB. Right now we are using sRGB linear, display P3, A98 RGB, photo RGB, REC 2020. Now there are XYZ D50, XYZ D65. There are 7 or 8 color spaces that are allowed right now. They are adding more. So these are the predefined color spaces. This is the syntax. We write color space, and there we 0 to 1, 1, 0 to 1. Only these one means 0 point, whatever the point is the index. So I'll show you demo. For different spaces, I use this one. This is the same color. I write linear gradient in lab. You see, first word is in lab to write white to this color. So this is their range. Same in OK lab. If I use OK lab, this is the difference in the color. If I use sRGB, this is again different. If I use LCH, they are saying they are different, giving different. OK LCH, again different range. And the XYZ, again different range. These are the color spaces. Write this one, and these are the color spaces, so that we can get a more color. RGB, using RGB, we cannot get this one. If you try in from console, they will give the error. Means console, if you go to the color, they will say it's out of range. Now HSL, there is a hue, saturation, lightness. This is normal HSL diameter. 0 degree is red, and there are 6 main colors: red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, magenta. This is the hue saturation limit. This is called hue.
This is called saturation, how we go to define, and this is called lightness, how light is. This is the whole, this is cylindrical way, like a cylinder. This is the syntax. H can be 0 to 60 degree, or we can use turn, and S and L 0 to 60%, alpha is this one. These are, and I'll see you the HSL demo. Why HSL is important? Like RGB, we do not remember. If I want to set a theme, we have to remember watch at color. HSL is very easy. Saturation and lightness, you change the lightness, you get a new color without changing any other thing. Same degree, you change the lightness, either you change the saturation. You get a whole new color things without changing much. If you see the HSL demo. So here is a saturation changes. When I do only changes saturation, like 100% is this 100%, and this is 0%. There are different colors. The same syntax. You don't need to remember all the colors syntax. Same, if you see the lights, I change the lightness. Lightness is 100% in white, lightness is 0% in black. So these are the different. So we got all different color, we only changing one parameter. Now HWB, this is whiteness, blackness, hue, whiteness, brightness. If you set 100%, then they will become bright. I'll go to the syntax. The syntax again. Now this is the red, 0%. This is the white, because whiteness is 100%. This is the black, this black is 100%. Whatever next color, whatever you put, if it is 100% last one, it is black. Now LAB. This is the lightness A axis and B axis. This is used by the industry. Like if you, there is a tool, I come to know there is a tool that check the color. So this is the whatever color. So this is a lab, 1976 lab that define the color. If everything's in the whatever the object that define, this is the what color is called. So this is very complex. They are given, this is lightness 0 to 100%, and there are A and B axis for 100 to 127 to 1. This is lightness. One axis, A axis is red to green, and B axis is to blue to yellow. Plus B minus B 127 to 128. So these are the lab signature. So there are syntax. This is the equipment to check the color. By this equipment, they check the color of any element. Now there comes LCH, lightness chroma hue. Spelling mistake, chroma. This is again same, but difference is there. C and H are more than 100. They are SL is 100. They also different. This is white. If you say first one is lightness, 100% is white. It's a black with 50% opacity. There are also. So difference between the LAB and LCH. We see the LAB, OK lab, and LCH. They are main difference. This is a Cartesian based, and this is the polar coordinates. This is now I see you one demo where one color can be represented in 34 types of syntax. So this is the same color. This is in the 34 different syntax. This is a Rebecca purple color. If I open this one, these are the syntax. Same color, different syntax. So if you see different colors, different syntax, the same color, they present same color. So they are 3x, 4x, XS, HSL, HSL, HWB, color, all the color functions, XYZ, REC, they are allowed right now. OK lab. Now this is last week happens. They new added the color mix. This is very interesting. They mix the color and get a new color. I'll show you a demo. Safari, they are allowed in the Safari. Color mix is allowed in Safari only. No, color contrast is relative color is allowed in Safari only. Color contrast is CSS module 6. If I see color mix demo. So this I'm using color mix and HSL. This is the syntax in whatever the color space you want to use, whatever in OKLCH, in RGB. First one, this is 0%, this is 25%, this is 50%. So these are different color sets you can get only using the color mix. So relative control color syntax there is using from keyword now new keyword using if I use RGB from tomato RGB, so we get relative color demo 50% less than that. Relative color demo. So this is not working here. I'll open the Safari. See, this is Safari that they are working right now. This is working. So HSL, I use HSL. See, this is the different syntax. Means you are using numbers. Here you see, I'm writing the color. There are also syntax you can use. You just write a number something and the color present. They are very interesting things. I have one GitHub. I have all the these are uh, example there. Okay, so this is you can get me with this name anywhere. Thank you. Questions? I that's very informative. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Switch it on later when it's connected. Everything is on mute, right? Disconnect. Charge it. Can you put this color? You have to switch it on. This one. No, this is on. Put it on. Yeah. Okay. When you're ready, switch it on.
Yeah, everyone can be seated. We'll break after this talk.
Hi everyone, how is the weekend? So, how many of you love JavaScript? Can you raise your hands? And how many of you love sleeping? I also love both. So, let's talk about something DevTools. We have already learned a lot of things from our previous speakers. Now it's time to dive deeper into the DevTools. And how many of you use DevTools for debugging or for the development? And how many of you use console logs for debugging? Like so, now it's time to switch to DevTools for debugging because DevTools provide us a lot of things like for development, and we often underestimate it. And like when we start our journey of web development, then it is very easy to use console logs for debugging. But as we progress through the development journey, DevTools becomes very integral part of our development process. So the name itself suggests DevTools. So that means it is made for us. So I'll be talking about these 4 topics which I have written here. Uh, maybe if I don't get time, I will skip some things because the things that we are going to do is very much in depth. So like whenever we learn any programming language, or let's say we learn JavaScript, we have heard of a concept called variables, right? Everyone knows variable. So in the JavaScript, we learned, I don't know why this drawer keeps coming again and again out. So let me keep it out. So like where I was, I forgot. I forgot. That is the main problem. If I lose the track, I will forget. So We learned that objects in JavaScript. Let me open my VS Code. So this is one object that I have created, user one, and we have learned that every object is referred by an address. Okay, how many of you heard of this concept? Like objects are stored by address. Like, do you know this objects are passed by reference or address like that? So these are not like regular variables like strings or numbers or booleans. They are referred by address. So I have made one kind of drawing in the Excali draw. Let me make it full screen. So this is one object. I have created that object, okay, and that object is there in the memory. And my variable that is user one, like user one, is referring to its address. And this address we have learned, like we have heard a lot of times. But have we ever seen, like, have you ever seen that address in the DevTools? Anyone? Like, no. So I will show you today. How can we see this address? How it looks like? Like it's like an Instagram ID. Add something and then something, some numbers. So let's come to our page. This is simple page, simple HTML. Only I have connected this JavaScript file. This is the JavaScript file that I have connected to it. And let me open this DevTools in the full screen so that we can see everything clearly. And I hope everything is visible and clear. I have zoomed out enough. So actually, in order to see that address, we need to go to the memory tab. Okay, if we come to memory tab, by default, this include numbers is by default it is unchecked if you go open for the first time. You can check this so that it, otherwise, if we don't check, it will not show numbers in the numbers address. So we have, for example, we have written one number age. Okay, so it will not show if it is unchecked. So we will check this, and if we scroll down, there is a snapshot button. Take a snapshot, or there is the same button is present here also. Keep snapshot. So if we click this, something is happening, and a lot of things came. Like we don't even know what are these things. Like we have created just 2-3 variables, and only one variable we have created, and a lot of things came. So how will we find our variable in this heap of memory? Lot of things are present. So actually we cannot find manually. Like manually we cannot search. It will take ages. So what we can do? We can do Control F, and I'm searching that Ankit I have written. Let me zoom it out a little bit so that it is clear. So I will search, if I search Ankit, so it is saying that this like this Ankit string, it is present against the name key, which is which name key in turn lives inside this user object. So there is something called context here. Let me go to this context. Context is like a group where all our variables will reside. So if I open here, so this is the variable, user variable that we have created, and this is the address. This is the address that we wanted to see all the time, how that address looks like in the memory. So this is the address, and let me tell you, like most of you people might be thinking like, oh, this might be something else. It might not be address. So let me create one more variable, user2, const user2. And if I assign the user one, so most of you have heard, like if I change this user to, let me change the name of user to my name. Let's say, actually I have not introduced myself. I will introduce myself at the end. Okay. Now I recall that I forgot to introduce myself. I will introduce myself. So let me tell you, my name is Anurag, not Ankit. I have written here, and I work as a front-end developer in digital insurance, and I teach on YouTube this front-end development, JavaScript, React, and CSS. So here it is, my introduction in the middle of the talk. Okay, so let me, yes, so I have copied this whole object in this user2 variable. And if I change the name of user2 variable, where is my DevTools? Here, if I go in the console, and if I check the user1, so user1 has the name Ankit. But if I change the name of user2, right now both are same because we have just copied. User2 is not defined. Let me check. 1 second. Let me reload user 2. Yeah, it is defined. Maybe it did not reload the page. Now user 2 have the same thing because we have just copied. And if I try to change this name of user 2 to my name, that is Anurag. And if we check user 2, that looks fine. But if we check user 1, its name is also changed. So why this happened? Actually, this lies in the concept that whenever we assign one object to another object, like a variable, its address is passed. So let me draw here, like whenever we created a variable named user2. So what happened? One name, like variable is just a name. It is not a value. Okay. So this variable is created, and this is pointing again to the same object. This is pointing to the same object. That means if we come in the memory, I have written just randomly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because it keeps changing every time we refresh. So if we check the address of this user2 in the snapshot of our heap, where is the memory tab, and we have to take the snapshot again, and we have to go through that process again. Let me take the snapshot because every time we change, it does not update immediately. So I will search this Ankit. I will do Control F, and then okay, let me reload. It is not showing here, or I have changed. Let me copy it again and take a snapshot again. If I search Ankit, it is coming like again. It is inside that inside the user 2 and inside user 1 also. And if I go to context again, context means a group of all the variables that we have created. So now we have user 2 and user 1. And if you see that address closely, if I zoom it a little bit, no, I should not zoom it. It is cropping out. So if you can see, both the addresses of these two objects are same, exactly same, like 25781 both are same. So this is how we can see the address of a variable of an object in the memory by going to the memory tab. And this something I was always curious about. I tried to search it on Google, how can we see this address? But I did not found any answer. So I relied to the DevTools. That is my home. It feels like home to me. So I tried to search everywhere, but I found it here. I just found it by searching myself. So this is the address of memory that we can see, like address of a variable, which we can see here. So like we have copied, if we want to make a copy, truly copy, so we can copy it in this way, like by doing object destructuring, we can do like this, and then the address will be different. Okay. So now in this case, the address will be different. Let me search it again. Now we are creating new object, which will create a new address in the memory. So if I search Ankit here again, and if I go to that context, actually this is a little longer process. Now okay, I did not take the snapshot again. Let me take the snapshot again. That was the old snapshot. And yes, let me go to this context. And here, if we see, the address is slightly different. Like in the last, for this user 2, it is 45, and for this, it is 43. So and this is how we can create different objects which are not connected in a way. So in this way, if I show you using this, then this whole object you can think of, this whole object has been duplicated here with a slightly changed address, which is not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, like that. Something you can imagine it is changed. So now if we change the name of user 2, only the user 2 will be affected. Let me change the user 2. Now I have changed the user 2, and if I check the user 1, it is same as it was previously. And if I check the user 2, it is changed. So this is how this thing address. This is because of the address that objects used to point. And now there is problem in this case. If we try to change the address, the array, this array, like subjects, we try to change the subjects here, and if we try to push something, let's say computer science. So I have pushed in the subjects of this user two, but let me show you user one. Okay, so in the user one also this is pushed, because again this has to do the same thing with the address. This subjects array is again using an address. So here in the illustration I have shown that this array is again created somewhere in the memory, and the subject key is referring to its address. And when we copy all the fields to a new object, its address is again copied, like the address of this thing, this array is again copied. So if we are modifying the object, the array of user 2, this array of user 1 is also being modified, because in the memory they are pointing to the same thing. So this thing we can also solve by using like by just doing deep copy. There is some concept called deep copy. You can research about that, and or we can just do subjects like this, subjects and is equal to an array, which is we will spread this user one dot subjects. So now in this case, I have made a completely different array. Like in this case, for this user two object, I have made completely different array, like this, something like this, and now it is pointing to this. So now if I change this thing in the DevTools, let me go here. If I execute that same thing, if I push in the user two, it will not affect my user one. See, in the user one, only one object is there, like only two subjects are there, and in the user two, there are three subjects, because we have pushed. Now we have disconnected it. So in this way, we can understand by the help of DevTools, we can learn this concept of pass by reference or pass by address in a completely practical way. There is nothing to believe for us. Like if someone says that they have some address, so okay, we believe that. But now there is nothing to believe. We can see it is practical. So we can, if we spend more time in DevTools, we can learn a lot of things. They can teach a lot of things to us. So now let's move to the like. If you have any question related to this, like anyone related to the variables, address, or anything. Okay, so let me move to the next topic, that is event listeners tab. Like most of you have been to this kind of website where if we want to copy and paste our username, let's say if my username is Anurag, I will type this, but my password is something complicated. But don't want to type it. I have written somewhere, but I want to copy and paste it. So I cannot copy and paste. Like it is disabled. It is literally disabled. How many of you been to these kind of sites? And how many of you have implemented this kind of feature? Like how many of you have implemented in your development journey? Okay, so let me tell you, this is not foolproof. If you want, you can bypass this. Let me go to Elements tab and select this passwords input field. And how we disable it? We disable it just by adding one event listener on paste and return false from there. Then the paste will be disabled. And if for copy, we will do the same thing. So it will be disabled. And let me type something. I have just typed something. And most of you know that if we change this type password to text, then we can see the password. Like it is visible. Now we can like if it is not disabled using this, then we can copy paste now, and we can see this also. But if we want to like disable the paste, like if you want to enable the paste, we cannot do this. Like I have removed that paste attribute, whatever it was there. And if I try to paste this disabled word itself, then I'm doing Control V, but it is not being pasted. Like is not going to fit. So what happens whenever this on paste attribute is added, like this is for the username. So this adds an event listener in the memory, like the memory of JavaScript, we can say. So just by removing that attribute, it will not work. So we have to come to event listeners tab, and it will tell that what all event listeners that are attached to that element. So in this case, there are two elements, there are two event listeners that are attached to this input event field. So if we want to paste, we can just open this and remove this, and now we can paste this. That's it. Like we can bypass any bank website who disabled this. We can paste our thing, and we can go ahead. Like I do this most of the times. If it is disabled, I don't want to type my password because it is very complicated. It includes all the things, characters, symbols, numbers, capital, small. So I do this. And so those who have implemented this, and those bank people, if they see this somehow by accident, they can handle this case. So what I have written in this, let me check my JavaScript for this. It is present inside this forms folder, and any one who want the starter code, the code which I have written here, I will provide at the end of the talk, or let me open that source code. Like this will, I will, if you scan this, it will take you to my GitHub, and you can download it from there. So this one you can scan. I will open it again at the end of the talk. So you can download the starter code from there. So the JavaScript I have written for this form, I have written some JavaScript. So right now, if we if we have copied and pasted our this thing password, and if we log in, and it is logging in normally, and I have used it on many websites, and it logs in efficiently, it does not create any problem. So mostly because they don't handle this case. So what we can do is, I have written one function here. Like this function, what it does, it takes an array of input fields and checks if that input field has been tampered with that copy and paste thing. Only for that thing it checks copy and paste. I have written this. So what it does, it checks what are all the input fields that have been tampered. So if I call it here just before extracting the data from the form and submitting it, and I just check this if my input fields have been tampered or not. So if I console log this input like tampered field, tampered inputs. So right now I'm not preventing, I'm just checking which input fields have been tampered. So it will reload the page. Let's see. Okay, so I have reloaded the page. Now let me type the username and password. I will type as disabled. So I cannot copy and paste. So again, I will disable it from the event business tab. I have disabled this, and I can paste it now. I have pasted. So if I click on logging, so that function that I have written, it is telling that this input field have been tampered. Like some user tried to mess up with this input field, and it is not as it was before. So what we can check, just we can put an if check. If any input field have been tampered, that means input field like tampered input dot length. That means any field have been tampered. So we can early exit from this function, and we cannot submit that. So I will again try to tamper with this input field. So I will remove this event listener, and I will paste my password, whatever it is. And if I click on login, so now it is console logging that, and sorry, we have tried to tamper, like we can show any message, and we cannot proceed with the like further with that. So this is how we can prevent this, like truly we can disable and enable this like copy and paste thing. And still there is one edge case all of you have, like I will ask all of you, like still if you implement this check, I can pass this still. So there is one way you have to think of that case. Any of you have that thought? How can we bypass this also? Yes, exactly. So now it is your job to handle that case also. Like how can we handle that? Like what we are doing, if what I'm doing essentially. So I'm checking if this user input has on paste. So right now it is null because I have removed it. On copy will be a function. If I do on copy, it is a function, like it is a function. So this is null, and we can set this to a function again, and then that security, like that, this logic will again fail. We can bypass this again. So now it's your job to handle that case if you implement, and having this is better than nothing. So uh, this is the event listeners tab. We can do a lot of things here, like what are all the events that has been attached to an element. We can check. So this is the event listeners tab, and there is one more tab, properties tab. So let's say if we have one input, okay, let's say if we have one input and we want to see all the properties about what are all the properties that are present on this input. So if we try to console log this input, like let me remove this thing. So it comes as an HTML tag because it is an HTML element, DOM node. So what we can use console.dir. If we do console.dir, it will print in the form of object. All the key value pairs we can see here. Let's say if we have some value, we can check this. Right now it is empty. Like initially on page loaded, it was empty, so value will be empty string. If we type something and then select again, then it will have some value. And all the details like password, type is password, and tag name, we can see it here, like by doing console.dir. But this thing we can do without doing anything, without even going to the console. We can come to the properties tab and we can see all the properties here. That's it. We don't need to do console log. And like we can do console log for the elements, but there are some DOM nodes that we cannot. For example, this comment is present in my code, so we can check the property of this DOM node. Like many of you have heard, like I don't know if you have heard of or not. There is something called node in the JavaScript. Like some things are elements and some things are node. So all the elements are nodes. So this is a node. This is an example of a node. So and if I come here, if I open this, then any string that is not directly inside a tag, that is also a node. So this is also a node. If I come to properties, then we can see all the properties that are present. We can check this show all. So all the null and empty properties will also come here. So this is the properties tab, which is very handy if we want to just quickly see what are all the properties that are present on this on any like element. So now the last thing that is there, that are source maps. So this is kind of a little like it is related to React. So let me come to, I have created one simple basic app using React. So this is a React app I have created using parcel.js. So it is very easy to start with parcel. If we want to set up a webpack, that will be very complicated. So I have created this app and it does nothing but increases count and decreases count. That's it. So I have put a console log here. Like I have put a console log in the counter.js. Somewhere I have put counter.js. Okay, this is the counter.js here in the components. The counter.js file is there, and I have put on line number 6. And if we like, if we run this, then this console log is coming from counter.js line number 6, and we feel that this is okay, this is nice. But in the first talk, like Shoaib, the name is Shoaib, right? He told that, and we also have learned a lot of times that this JSX code does not run in our browsers, right? This Babel converts it into React.create element, and then it runs in our browsers. But right now we can see if I put a debugger here, and if I decrease the count, it is pausing here, and it is inside the DevTools. That means it looks like that it is running here in our DevTools. It looks like it is running, but actually it does not run. How it happens? Like how this counter.js file is coming to our sources. So actually this counter.js file is never coming. It does never come to our this browser. Okay, let me open this elements tab and show you how our server, our this React server is serving. So if I open this, this is just a simple HTML file that it is serving, and it has connected a JavaScript file, which has lot of code, lot of code. So I will tell you in detail what it is doing. So the parcel, actually our browser does not understand what is node module. Node modules is for node, which is for servers. So browsers does not understand what is node modules, but somehow we are using it in the front end application, that is our React application. We use it. So what these bundlers does, create parcel or webpack, they will take out all the code from these node modules files and they will put it in one file. And in this case, it is this file. They have extracted all the code, they have put it in one file, and it will be very difficult for us to debug. Let me show you. If I come here in the console, it is right now, it is telling that from counter.js line number 6 it is coming. But if I go to settings, and there is one option, enable JavaScript source maps. If I disable this, I have just disabled that, suddenly it changed. It is now telling that index dot something, like this console log is actually coming from index.js file, which has been served to the server, to the browser. If I come to network tab and if I put the JavaScript filter, only this index.js file is coming, and these are from extensions. I think I don't know why it is coming. This is from the React extensions that are coming. This is actual file that is coming to our browser. So there is one file that is coming to our browser. Then how it is able to understand that our code is being console log if this thing is enabled? Let me enable it again. Let me enable this JavaScript source maps again. I've just enabled this JavaScript source map, and it is telling that from counter.js line number 6. Again, it is changed. It is changing. So actually, that secret lies in this folder, in this file. This is our source map file. So what it does, it looks something like mysterious file. So let me open this. Let me reveal in File Explorer and copy this folder in my desktop. I have copied and pasted my that file in desktop, and I will close this. And okay, so I will close this and I will open it in a new tab, like in a new VS Code window. Here I have only 3 files. Here I have only 3 files: this index.html and JavaScript and map file. And if I start this server using live server extension, then it will open it in a new tab. And if I open the console here in the side, and I can see that still again it is saying that from counter.js it is coming. But in my this whole folder, there is no place where counter.js is present. In that case, we would have assumed that somehow it is coming. But in this case, only 3 files are there, but still it is coming. So that is actually that information is present inside this map.js. If I format this, Shift Alt F, and this will format. And if I search at counter.js, so this is the this is the information that our DevTool is using, and creating an imaginary file called counter.js, which is already this counter.js is present inside. If we hover over it, it will say components. Like it is very small, you cannot see a component slash counter.js, and that information it is getting from here. Okay, so all that, like here, if we see, we can see this parcel source root and node modules. We can see all these files are never, like these files never come, and the these node modules does not come to our browser. If I again just disable, I have disabled from here, let me disable it from the code itself. So from here, how can we disable it? It is connected to our JavaScript. If we come down here, we come down here and remove this comment. This looks like a comment, but this is the actual line which connects the source map to our JavaScript. I have just disabled that, like I have just removed that, and see if I come to sources, no node modules. Node modules are gone because the information For that, no, for it to create, it was present inside that file. And if I just do Control Z and it is again connected, all the node modules and all the files are coming here again. So these are not files; these are actually information just present in this map.js. And our code that we have written here, somewhere we have written this console log. Let me do Control F and console dot log, and there it is in 10 places, and we have done counter, right? So this like see this our code is written here. If you can see closely, so from where it start import something, see import use state from React.js, and then the whole code itself that we have written in our counter.js file, it is written here, and somehow it is understanding that this line number corresponds to that file, like to that line number. So this is the source mapping. It have its own language, and this is how source maps work, and they are the actual thing which save us. Otherwise, how we will debug? Like, see, if I just remove this, let me now tell you one more thing. If I just delete this file, now it is connected, but it will tell one warning. It will say as that could not load the content for this file, and it is giving warning. And now we cannot debug like properly. It is not showing our code. It is showing the minified code. So these all the things I have learned from just DevTools, just trying to understand how the things are working. I have spent much time in DevTools, understand like how all the things are connected, and I will encourage all of you to spend more time in DevTools. And basically, I am a like. Let me tell about myself again. Like I've told in the middle. Let me tell you at the end. So I work at Digit Insurance as a software engineer, and I teach on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Anurag Singh Pro Coder. You can search, or you can just scan this. I have like if you want to connect me, and if you want to learn these things in depth, because I have time limitation here. So this is for source code, and this is for my YouTube channel. If you want to learn all these things in depth, you can scan this and you can follow me on YouTube, and from there you can connect me. And this is the QR for the source code. And any questions do you have? Like I'm done with the topics. Okay, all right.
I applied for this top proposal. Your name? Ayush Goel. Okay. Yeah. So results are like no. We started sending results, but it will take 1 week to respond to everyone. So we are responding in batches. By the end of next week, we'll get a yeah. Click on present. Share. Can you mute? Can you mute? Mute of what? Yeah. You need to give the camera? Not necessary. Present. We need to open the slides first. Yeah.
After that, we will give the talk.
Both are given to
You can't show it.
you can. Share screen. Click on share screen. Aman is from Flipkart, right? Yeah, both are.
देखना क्या प्रेजेंट हो रहा है
You shared the screen, right? Yeah. Great. Yeah. Sorry for the trouble, but you need to once again.
Do we have to get some other mic?
Okay. So this is for live stream. This is for live stream.
Okay.
And maybe you can use these mics for talk, or you can use this.
It will go like this.
So it's better to use it for two people, right?
Yeah.
Them,
These two. So it is switched on, no?
one is fine, right? Because only one will.
Yeah,
So
sure.
you can
It's switched on, no?
have it.
तुझको बोलना है ना, है? बड़ा कर,
ये ना छोटा कितना हो गया ये?
बड़ा कर लेंगे ना इसको,
इसको तो कर लेंगे तो
उससे फर्क क्या पड़ता है हमें?
वो पूरी स्क्रीन ना शेयर करेंगे।
पूछ लेना, उनको दिख रही होगी।
और इट्स नॉट शेयरिंग द होल स्क्रीन।
Can you check?
Try to use this. No, I mean, it's okay.
इससे पहले जिसने दिया था उसका क्या नाम था? पंकज था। तो पंकज gave the session before. अनुराग. Yeah.
Sharing.
We just want to share one tab.
Then you can do that, right? Extend the display.
पहले बंद कर देना, हटा लूँ ना।
दिख ही नहीं रहा।
हाँ वो हो रहा है, आई थिंक हो रहा है।
You can drag it. Is it on the side? Top side. So it should go there. It should be visible. I can't find where my cursor is.
क्लिक कर देना।
You share your entire screen. What?
सही तो आई थिंक फाइन ना।
सही है, आई थिंक इट हमारा बहुत बड़ा बड़ा, इट डजंट मैटर। नहीं नहीं ये आई डोंट वांट टू शेयर दिस। आई थिंक ठीक है, आई थिंक ठीक है, आई थिंक ठीक है, इट्स फाइन।
One of the problem is that when we see the cursor projector, just bring it to the top left and maximize it. More hours है ना, ये रहा।
हाँ बस इसको इधर ही रखते हैं ना। कर्सर को हो गया है ना। लेक्स यूज करो यार। ठीक है आई थिंक। Should I start? यार Hi all. So we had a great session by Anurag before lunch where we discussed how we can trace uh, client client metrics, like how we can log things on client side and how we can debug client side code. Our talk will be similar to that only, but we will see how we can debug code at server side. So our code will mostly move around how we can trace requests at node level using async hooks, and it will help us to untangle time to first byte in such a way that we can trace all the metrics which is increasing our time to first byte, and we can debug it. This will help us in improving and monitoring, in improving our web performance, and we can also improve how we monitor our web application. My name is Aman. I'm working as UI engineer at Flipkart in Apex team.
Hi everyone, I'm also working with UI with Apex teams. Our team works with native and web platforms in standard iOS and web. We try to give a great user experience to the end users. Sometimes Twitter might disagree, but that's our goal. So what is the agenda for the next 20 minutes? So we will, as Aman already mentioned, be working on how to improve our observability and visibility in our server-side application. Right? Firstly, we will reach for FTS server. Once we have clearly identified what our architecture is, we will then move on to how we are using observability right now on our server. Right. Then we will go on to the usual problem statement that is we are going to discuss today is about the flaky TQA. So let me just give a we were monitoring our web page test, we noticed that our FCP counts, we were getting a lot of variation between them. And we were not able to decipher this. Then we dug a little deeper, the TDF we had servers are varying a lot, which is again leading to a high FCP. So problem with having a high server, even know directly what is actually causing the code base of the server break down the code base that's running to the server is that target how to improve. Right? So that is what we're targeting this talk. We'll be able to target what exact function is taking how much time on the server for each particular request. Right? So that is a goal today. Identify the solutions for this. We have three major approaches that we tried out. And we chose async hooks. Then we will attach this programming headers waterfall diagram on your browser itself. At the end, if we have time, we will discuss about some bonus extra bonus that async hooks. Right? Yeah, over to Aman for the introduction towards that.
So before going into observability, how we achieve observability in Flipkart, we will discuss how Flipkart web works. So Flipkart application is an isomorphic application, which means when client initiate a request, it will receive at our server end, and we will generate HTML at our server. Then that HTML will be sent to client by using render to string or render to node stream anything. Then the page will get rendered at the client end. And all the other things like further navigation or any other action will be done at the client side using client code. There will be no further server intervention needed in order to solve it. If we will visualize it, so We are accessing the server, we are hitting the server with the URL. We will get the data from data sources. We will add the data in our JSX because we use React. Then HTML will be created, and this HTML will be sent to client side, and the page will get rendered. So coming to observability, in Flipkart, the observability is divided into client side tracking and server side tracking. If we will talk about client side tracking, then we do synthetic monitoring and real user monitoring. And in server side, we use stats D ecosystem, where we will log all the information related to server, the error count, asynchronous time which a request is taking, time which a async operation is taking on the server, and we will add this to our log server. We are again and again coining the term TTFB. So if we will define TTFB, it is the amount of time which a browser takes in order to receive first byte of information from the web server after requesting a page. So the problem which Manan mentioned, flaky synthetic LCP and FCP. Few months back, we noticed that there is flakiness in our LCP and FCP count. After some investigation, we found that there is a problem with our TTFB. TTFB, for some of the requests, our server was not responding very well. So in order to debug it, we decided that we should untangle TTFB and we should divide the TTFB into small pieces so that we can hit a particular area and we can find the real cause behind it. But there is a difficulty which we were facing in untangling TTFB because of Node.js non-blocking feature. So, as Node server uses event loop behind the scene in order to handle different requests. And because of its non-blocking nature, Node.js will handle new incoming request, and it will lead to interleaved request, and that will lead to cluttered logs. This is an example. We are hitting 5 requests to a Node server, and there are 5 different asynchronous operations, which is initializing to. We are making 3 APIs call, and at last we are using render to string. As you can see, all logs are intermixed. And in order to differentiate between the logs, we have to add a unique identifier, which will be request ID in our case, and so that we will be able to identify which log is responsible by which request. So Manan will explain how we can pass request ID with each and every log state.
Yeah, I hope the statement is clear. So we're getting a lot of requests on a Node server, but we can't predict which call is taking how much time for each request. So we don't know. So say for a person A, how long each function has run, right? So we have a couple of approaches that we can try out to solve for this. One is whenever a new request comes, we assign an ID to it, and then we pass every function that on the function. So as you can probably guess, but be very detailed, really long because every new piece of function we need to pass this request ID and log. Right? So at the size of the Node.js server, it's easy to implement, not maintainable, and not very scalable. So we try to get approach. Same approach. Yeah. As you can see in the first one, if I were to mention the visualization, we are passing the request ID for each function, right? Let's go for the second one, right? The second one will be the request object that we get from the Express server. We pass the request ID. Whatever asynchronous functions have access to the request, they will be able to access the request ID for the identifier for the request. But there are still a lot of functions that do not have. You know, this problem becomes very similar to the every function has a request. So still not very ideal solution, but not very ideal for us. So we decided to pass on this. A lot of your React folks made already do the issue with passing props from one function to the other. Right? This also happens in React components, like where we pass from a very lightweight ancestors where only the lowest most required. So anyone guessing? You can guess what this problem is for. Lovely. And what is the solution to the problem? Context, lovely. So
we have this problem of not building, but this is right. So as you already told the solution here is creating a global context. This is what we were trying to achieve on the Node.js here instead of the app. So this is where async. What async hooks does is it plugs into every. It has 3 or 4. Like it has 4 lifecycle events. Plugs into every single async function. With this visibility, it will create a global context outside how is your how requests are coming and how we're using. So what we're using is to create this like context on the Node.js side. So that makes it very maintainable at scale because any function that is running with request ID has called this one. In this block benchmark it. This is where we have gone ahead and selected this approach. And over to Aman for giving a brief about async hooks.
Perfect. So now we know that we have to go with the third approach where we will create a context and we can get the data from there without the need to pass it like a problem thing which we do in React. So how we can implement it? We can do it by using async hooks. So async hooks is a feature which is like API which is given by Node.js that will allow the developer to register hooks in the life process of a async resource. Hooks provide the way by which you can tap into the life cycle methods of async resource, and we will add the information in the starting and get the information in between, and after the resource will get destroyed. When the resource will get destroyed, then we will delete the element from our context object. So these, according to Node documentation, these are the example for a async resource. So whenever a async resource will be encountered, a new object will be constructed with the async ID, and when there will be completion of callback associated with the async resource, then object will be destroyed by the garbage collector. So async hooks will use some callbacks, which will help us to track different lifecycle method of a async resource. So the first callback is init. So init will be called whenever the async resource object will be constructed. Second is before. Before will called just before the callback associated with the async resource will get called. After will be called when after the resource callback has finished their work. Destroy will be called before the async resource object will be destroyed. And promise is always related to promise. It will call only for promise. For this talk, we will mostly focus on init and destroy because we have used that in order to implement execution context on Node.
All right, that was a lot of theory. Hopefully, most of you are still awake. Now, what we will try to do is we will try to explain how this code runs on our server. We have one context over which is the global store that we're using. And this event queue actually is a queue for the incoming requests that we're getting on the server. Let me try to explain. Right, so let's just say that we have a new request ID 100 coming to our server. What we will do is we will set this request ID. The execution map is that data structure. We will just set the root ID here is the ID, the initial function that is called. Get called to start. Yeah, 900 to this. 900 comma request ID. Because then request ID 100 over here. As you can see, input context map 900 to request ID. Right, right. Now let's just say that average call using the external services. They are again triggering a lot of resources, right? Resource. Now we'll come to the init lifecycle event that I already explained about. The init lifecycle event has async ID and trigger async ID. We already guessed it. Trigger async ID is the parent which is triggering. So what we try to do over here is we look up the trigger async ID in the context for 901. We saw the existing app node called 900. So we put the request ID for that and we put it next to 900. Now let's make it a little bit more difficult.
Say we get another new request ID 101. It's still not finished. We're getting a new request ID of 101. As you already discussed, we will set 91 with a new, I know 1000 with a new request ID. Right? I hope this is clear now. Right? Next, let us set request for middleware. Next one. Right. So, let's say the first request is now done. The first request ID of 100 that we have is now done. Right? So, what this is when it's triggered to delete these. This is 900 and 901. Again, this data structure, skimming over this right now because it will take a lot of to cover that. Next step. So 900 and from the execution one. So as you can see, in this simple explanation, any function that is running inside a code can actually make all this that context map and see what is the request ID associated with this. Is that clear? Right. These are the two functions that we saw, the init function and the destroy function. I've already explained this, I think we will. You have this set request ID on the middleware where a new request came, and you are setting the request ID that the magical utility that you run everywhere and logging as well as performance metrics. This is the get request ID. You can run this anywhere on your server. Yeah, any function that you run this get request ID, you will find out okay, this is the request ID that is associated with it. So I made a request. What is you made a request? What are the values for each function? Right? So, so as I already showed, this was logs before. We had incoming requests and then we had a couple of metrics where we're not able to isolate requests. Is it responding to this one or we don't know. This is where we are coming. So every request has a measure of the function that is running. So initialize flow for request 1 to tab. Request 101. Here, hopefully, by this time you are really mind blown. Yeah. So over to Aman for the visualization server timing header.
So we got all the information, and we are not able to track like what are the different metrics for each request, and we are able to distinguish between. So it will be great if we can send this information to client side in dev mode only. So we will use server timing header. Server timing header helps us to send information from server to client, and it will give a proper waterfall model at the client end where we can see like how much time each step is taking on the server for a particular request. So if we will combine request level tracking with server timing header, then we are able to see that uh, like initializing flow took around 245 ms, user data call took around 148 ms, pay data call took around 147, and then reducing 100. So we have the proper breakup at the client end, and we can debug and we can see where we can improve ourselves. If we will stitch all things together, the request will come from the client end. When the request will be reached to our server, execution context will be generated, and all the logs will be sent to log service with the request ID, so that we are able to identify which request ID is responsible for this log. Then HTML will be created. With the HTML in dev mode, we will send the data which we have for the add from the server in server timing header. The page will be rendered at the client end. This will lead to better observability because we have the proper breakup of time to first byte at client end as well as at our log service. Thank you. Any question if you have?
Any questions? Otherwise, you put.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it is in Node right now.
You're talking about async local.
Async, yeah. Async local storage. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Behind the scene, it uses this only. Async hooks are getting used in async continuation
It's just
storage.
providing an abstraction. There they will take care. I think it's in beta.
It is in
currently.
experiment mode right now. Yeah. Any other question?
Bonus नहीं करना क्या?
Yeah.
Bonus नहीं करना क्या?
नहीं. अच्छा. Thank you. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that last one. I think it's already. Really? Oh, sure. Okay, right? Is it shared now?
Long press this button to switch it on.
Okay, this one, right? It's start. Hi everyone. So, am I audible? Okay. So myself, Mariappan Subramanian. Actually, I work for a company called Freshworks. So in Freshworks, I specifically work on developer platform team. So like it's the platform end. So we build SDKs and like other developer utilities kind of things. And we also have an app marketplace where developers can build apps around Freshworks products. So I specifically work on the customer experience part of that marketplace team. So today I'm going to talk about state of front-end tooling. It like it will not I will not go into any code internals like how to set up or like work with a particular tooling. Instead, like I'll just talk about it will be an just an informational journey how the front-end toolings have traveled so far. So this would be the agenda. Like I'll touch upon developer experience a bit first. We'll see why developer experience is important or like how I landed here, like about toolings. Then I'll talk a little bit on how the front-end developer experience has evolved over years. Then I'll like this part will be like I'll be focusing more on like I'll talk about next generation front-end toolings which are available right now, and I'll talk about a particular tooling called Vue.js. I don't know how many of you have here. Like, do anyone know what is Vue.js or have used it? So I'll like I have worked on Vue.js since it was in beta, like very early. So like I have been traveled with it. So I'll talk a little bit on Vue.js. Then I'll touch upon certain aspects, how Vue.js and other toolings which we use at Freshworks Marketplace helped us shape our developer experience a bit. Then I'll touch upon little trade-offs of other toolings. So before this, like almost everyone would have worked on any bundlers, right? Like, is there anyone who haven't worked on any type of bundlers so far? Almost everyone has worked on any bundlers like Webpack or any other, not just Vue.js. You might have worked on any other bundlers, right? So why we need a bundler or like any front-end tooling? Like there are many use cases, but so I'll go here. So specifically on developer experience. So why should we care about developer experience in general? See, like any company, if you take like